From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South. I am Doris Polo. Social movements from over 50 countries have gathered in Caracas, Venezuela for the first World Forum Against Imperialism. Participants hope to create a united plan of response to face off against the interventionist attacks of the United States.
Discussions, debates, meetings between local producers, forums on art, economy, communication, and geopolitics are just some of the events that make up the schedule of the first World Forum Against Imperialism. The start of the forum was marked by a tribute to the late Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, who was slain by U.S. forces early this month.
In the name of our party and of our people, I want to officially open this international meeting of anti-imperialist peoples, for all of you and for the world.
From Venezuela to Syria, from Cuba to Spain, diverse people reject U.S. interests, calling them a distressing presence across the world.
Imperialism stands against humanity, against liberty, and the self-determination of all of people. They may use different names, but imperialism will always be the enemy of global progress.
The reality of Venezuela is seen as an example to follow thanks to the tenacity of its people, who have fought for years against threats and attacks by foreign powers.
You, Venezuelans, comrades, you must resist, have strength, because your fight is fundamental for workers, for your children, for my children, and for all humanity.
While Mike Pompeo and his puppet Juan Guaidó traveled the world, we came together in Caracas to fight for peace, just as they continue to ask for more sanctions against Venezuela.
The forum hopes to establish self-determination, sovereignty, and peace as the guiding principles of global politics.
This is a crucial moment when we must reflect on this geopolitical transition, on our next steps to reach a more plural world. The empire is afraid and is willing to do anything to keep their power. We saw this a few weeks ago when they murdered General Soleimani.
Imperialism is an ideology, and we have a different ideology that stands against them. We are here for socialism, for the development of our people, for equality, for human rights, against racism and sexism.
This forum will also be accompanied by a march of Venezuela's social movements, a meeting with President Nicolas Maduro, and a number of local art shows.
Social movements are celebrating the Day of Democracy in Venezuela with events accompanying the international meeting against imperialism in Caracas. A massive march of Venezuelan social organizations took to the streets defending Venezuelan democracy and the sovereignty of the peoples. International participants of the World Forum Against Imperialism are taking part in the mobilization, which is headed for the Miraflores Palace, where they'll be received by President Nicolas Maduro.
We are Bolivarian anti-imperialist and anti-colonial force. We are deeply Chavista and socialist of the 21st century and beyond. If I'm standing here as the constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, it's because I've been loyal to the people and I've stood against the oligarchy and imperialism.
That was the voice of President Nicolas Maduro, who addressed attendees at the event. The Venezuelan government is delving further into the opposition's ring of corruption, as today marks 1 year since right-wing figure Juan Guaidó proclaimed himself president. In a press conference, Communications Minister Jorge Rodriguez outlined some of the indications, many of which have been made public by right-wing media, that the opposition's coup efforts have become big business. He added that supposed humanitarian aid funds have been used by different opposition figures for their own enrichment.
A video appears of a man of USAID, which is supposedly an NGO utilized by Trump for a number of different things in order to attack countries, in order to promote coups, to promote conspiracies, to subordinate, to extort. And USAID director personally delivers $52 million to Carlos Vecchio and Julio Borges, of a total of nearly $467 million in humanitarian assistance. In quotes, and this is according to the USAID webpage, as well as $184 million for Venezuelans inside Venezuela. That makes for a total $654 million, and of that amount, USAID has provided more than $435 million. Where is it, Juan Guaidó? Where is that $435 million? Let's suppose that the 467, which is the total that USAID was going to hand off, where is the $143.5 million? Where is that supposed $184 million for Venezuelans inside of Venezuela? Is there a Venezuelan in Antimano, in Santa Elena, in Guairén, in Barquisimeto, in Barcelona, in Cumana, who have received even $1 of these $184 million which were given to Juan Guaidó? What do the contributors of the U.S. taxpayer system have to say about this money which is given liberally?
Staying in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro has received legendary Argentinian footballer Diego Maradona, who is in the Bolivarian Republic this week. The two have always been good friends. In fact, Maradona was in Venezuela during the 2018 presidential elections, where he joined Maduro for a campaign rally. The footballer, an ally of Latin America's revolutionary processes, expressed gratitude to President Maduro and his wife for their hospitality and for continuing the legacy of Commander Hugo Chavez, saying in Venezuela, one breathes struggle and revolution.
My greetings to all of Argentina. I send a hug and a kiss to the Argentine people. We love Argentina, the social movements, the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo, the singers, the union members, the soccer players. We have enjoyed being with Diego Maradona because Diego is all heart, all passion. Saint Diego de la Maradona.
Diego de la Maradona. Yo también quiero agradecerle a todo el pueblo.
I also want to thank all the Venezuelan people for all the letters I receive. So many letters that are good for me to carry on. Because we know we are fighting against the world's most powerful. That's what they say. But hurt, they have not hurt. But to victory always.
Hasta la victoria siempre. Venceremos.
We will triumph, as Che Guevara used to say, to victory always. Long live Argentina.
Que viva Diego! Viva Maduro!
In Brazil, former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has said that the Venezuelan people must resolve their own issues, calling opposition lawmaker Juan Guaidó a con artist. Telesur correspondent Brian May interviewed the former president alongside journalists Daniel Hunt and Michael Brooks. On Wednesday, the Mexican government announced that 460 migrants from Honduras had been deported after they crossed the Suchiate River dividing Mexico and Guatemala. Several hundred migrants remain at a shelter in Tecunuman after groups of them returned to Honduras. On Monday, authorities announced they would not give the migrant caravan safe passage through Mexico, as this provision is not reflected in their migratory laws. For their part, the migrants have condemned the Mexican government's harsh stance, saying they are serving the anti-immigrant interests of the United States.
We thought we would be allowed through just like the October caravan. When they reached Tijuana, those migrants are there. They are living well. People from Mexico and Guatemala have treated them well. But now it changed because Mexicans don't want us to enter.
There are times when you are down. People are going back to Honduras because of what happened at the Mexican border. But some people are driven to continue their fight, hoping for a positive response, in the hope that there is news which would make us happy.
Cuban revolutionary teacher Vzla de los Santos Tamayo died on Thursday at age 90. She was the founder of a revolutionary teaching methodology and a strong promoter of the right to free education in Cuba. She fought against the dictatorship, and after the triumph of the revolution, she was a main figure in the country's literacy program and became Minister of Education. We'll take a short break now. Join us in a minute. Welcome back. Wednesday marked the anniversary of the plurinational state of Bolivia, a day when the South American nation reclaimed the rights of Bolivia's multi-ethnic people thanks to the work of former President Evo Morales.
The de facto president Janine Áñez gave a speech from the government palace in a mandatory broadcast for all Bolivian media, in which she focused on criticizing the work and achievements of Evo Morales over the past 14 years.
We were lied to for 14 years on the real state of the economy, the gas reserves and the production of natural resources.
Another speech was given by Evo Morales broadcast on social media. In it, he explained that during his administration the country had extraordinary economic achievements, highlighting that in the past Bolivians had to beg for money from the International Monetary Fund just to pay teachers' salaries. And today the minimum wage stands at over $300 per month.
Our gross international product stood at $9.5 billion in 2005 and rose to more than $40 billion at the end of 2018. That means that in Bolivia we are producing more and more of our own goods.
Morales also warned that the final goal of last November's coup is still to be seen.
In 2019, and for the first time in our history, Bolivia was classified as a country with high human development by the United Nations. And now the coup government is hard at work to destroy our advances. We were the first victims of the coup mongers, but the end goal is your social rights. The final target of the right wing is you.
Morales, who is living under asylum in Argentina and whose constitutional mandate ended on January 22nd, added that popular sectors already showed what they are capable of during the almost 14 years of his government.
The struggle must continue. The poor, the workers, indigenous people, campesinos, we already know where to go. They won't take away our dreams, our freedom, our dignity, and much less our identity. The time to kneel before others has ended. We will not be afraid. The usurper's time will end.
This year's anniversary of the plurinational state comes as thousands of armed troops and tanks have been deployed across Bolivia to confront so-called subversive citizens. But the de facto government's plan failed, as mobilizations have been peaceful.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has launched a gender-based violence unit. This, as at least 3 women have been killed on the island so far this year.
And by doing this now, working with the NYPD, where we've signed an MOU with, they have given me the assurance that by doing this, guess what is going to happen? There's going to be an increase, there's going to be a spike in the number of reports of domestic violence. Now, usually persons will say, well, if there's an increase in reports of crime, it means that we're doing something wrong. Not in this case. It will now mean that the victims will now be comfortable. They will now feel that justice would be served, that they would know that there's no concern about reprisal, because at times you have reports of that as well. You go to a police station, by the time you get back home, your husband or your loved one is aware that you made a report. So by doing this now, by persons now feeling comfortable, feeling secure, that they can make a report and something would take place and it will not affect them, the reports will increase. it will then decrease because now the perpetrators will be aware that there are consequences, that they would have to pay for their crime.
Members of South Africa's Communist Party have held a demonstration outside the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria to protest the country's attacks on Iran. The demonstrators sang revolutionary songs and held banners denouncing what they say is President Donald Trump's obsession with war, highlighting the recent killing of Iran's top commander, General Qasem Soleimani. SACP members said they are against imperialist aggressions across the world and vowed to roll out protests in South Africa until the U.S. withdraws its forces from the Middle East.
We're picketing here to protest against the U.S. aggression in the Middle East, particularly against Iran, extrajudicial killings, violation of international law. As you know, for instance, recently the killing of General Qasem Soleimani and Comrade Al-Mandi, who were killed by U.S. instruments.
Zimbabwean students have demonstrated against the high cost of education. A group from the Zimbabwe National Students Union picketed outside the Ministry of Education against a recent rise in tuition fees. They delivered a petition to the ministry and called on all students across the nation to join the protests. This comes a few days after school children also marched in the streets against the cost of education.
Very clear to the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Innovation, Amon Munira, that the students are coming for here. He has declared war upon the students, and the students will remain. Where there is injustice, the students will speak for themselves. What we want is education for all, because education is not a privilege, according to Section 75 of our own 2018 Amendment about the Constitution. The Zimbabwe National Students Union is very clear. In brackets, you can call it ZINAS. It's the only union in this nation which represents the students. And we are very clear on our message. We are never going to break down all polytechnic colleges, all universities, all teachers' colleges. They are going to respond because we are very clear on the message.
We're taking one last break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Chinese authorities have announced a public transport shutdown in 3 cities in Hubei province as part of preventative measures to curb the spread of a new coronavirus-related pneumonia. The cities of Wuhan, Huanggang, and Ezhou will be affected. Flights have also been cancelled to those districts until further notice. Reports also state that Beijing has shut down all major New Year celebrations. All this as the death toll has risen to 18, with 571 others infected. Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, the United States, Japan, and the Republic of Korea have all confirmed 1 case each, with Thailand recording 3. Officials from the WHO have welcomed the quick measures taken by the Chinese government to curb the spread of the virus.
The sequencing was done quickly, but more importantly, it was shared immediately. And that's why Korea, Japan, Thailand were able to diagnose the new coronavirus quickly. In addition to that, action is taken immediately, especially on the market, to Wuhan market, seafood market, and followed by other actions was very commendable.
The primary issue is to limit human-to-human transmission, to reduce secondary infections, especially amongst close contact and particularly in healthcare environments. We need to prevent transmission through amplification events and super spreading events, and obviously prevent further international spread. Reducing zoonotic transmission, or transmission from animals to humans, is important, and identifying the animal source or sources and limiting exposure to those sources is exceptionally important.
Moving to Europe, the International Court of Justice has instructed Myanmar to urgently take steps to prevent the genocide of its minority Rohingya people. The presiding judge ordered that all measures be taken to prevent the killing of members of the group and the deliberate infliction of conditions calculated to bring about its physical destruction. Myanmar must also report back within 4 months and then every 6 months after that. This is the first time the Buddhist nation has faced justice over a 2017 military crackdown that sent around 740,000 Rohingya fleeing into neighboring Bangladesh. Gambia filed a lawsuit on behalf of the refugees. Supporters of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange gathered outside a court in London as his hearing to determine if he would be extradited to the US took place. The judge ruled that the matter will be split into two parts, with the first hearing scheduled for February and the second in May. Assange faces 17 charges under the US Espionage Act, as well as a charge for allegedly attempting to hack a Pentagon computer system. He was targeted after he published 75,000 documents showing US war crimes in Afghanistan in 2010. Assange has been in custody since being removed from Ecuador's embassy in London last April.
Our civil liberties are at stake. A free press supports the democratic process in this country. I think it's up to citizens to wake up and raise their voice in defense of our civil rights. And press freedom and freedom of expression is a cornerstone of democracy. For too long, we've left this issue in the matters of others. It's important that everyday people stand up and make their voices heard. Enough is enough.
At least one person has been killed and several injured in Seattle as shooting incidents escalate in the United States. A manhunt has been launched for the unknown gunman who opened fire in a popular tourist area. This is the third shooting in the district in less than 2 days, and the latest in several incidents that have been happening at churches, cinemas, and other public places across the country.
When our units arrived on scene, we found a total of 6 patients on scene. One of those patients was pronounced dead here at the scene, and the other 5 patients, we consider them red patients, which means that they're critical, so they need to get to the hospital. They were all transported by Seattle Fire units as well as AMR units.
The Trump administration is set to extend its controversial travel ban to more African and Asian countries. According to media reports, the U.S. government plans to limit visa access for visitors from Belarus, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, Nigeria, Sudan, and Tanzania. The original ban was upheld by the Supreme Court after a legal challenge and was widely condemned as mostly targeting citizens of Muslim countries. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for Telesur English and Doris Polo. Thanks for watching.